what does going to a match, away from your home club look like? Well, it looks a lot like this. So this is an Airbnb that we are in. There's my gear. There's a couple other buddies' gear. A little bit more of my gear and somebody else's gear. So there's 4 or 5 of us in an Airbnb here. We bring everything out of our trucks into a garage or into a house or into a hotel. We do not leave anything of value in a vehicle no matter where we stay. It just doesn't make sense. So this is what part of it looks like. Let me show you some more. Here's a little bit that's inside the house, and this was one of my buddies who was seeding some bullets before the match tomorrow. And, of course we have all the normal stuff, just some odds and ends of food and computer and, just normal things. But this is what we do when we travel to matches, so let's see what tomorrow's like. Well, it is a very different kind of morning out here at Rattlesnake today. There is virtually no wind, and the forecast is actually calling for almost no wind. So, I don't know, it's just going to be a little different out here. If you remember a month ago, we were in 25, 30 mile an hour winds. This is about as bad as it's supposed to get today, so we're going to see what happens. We brought about 6 of our guys from our local club. One of them's never shot, oh there he is, he's waving at us, that's CJ. He has never shot a 1,000-yard match out here, so that'll be fun. And just a lot of really great shooters, so it's going to be a good day. Well, let's look at the first relay. So, it was interesting because by Rattlesnake standards, it was a pretty calm day. We started out maybe 3-4 miles an hour, maybe little puffs here and there. But really what made it tricky is that it was switching, and it was mostly a headwind switch. So that can really throw things off. So even though, if I was at any other range and it was blowing 3 miles an hour, you'd be like, oh, this is, just a trigger pulling day. But, Rattlesnake doesn't cut you any breaks. And so we started off. Now you can see I really screwed up on this one because everything is on the right side of the X. I was holding over here for the majority of my shots. In fact, I was holding anywhere from 2 right, which is right here, all the way over to about 3 left. And, the Mirage was pretty thick already. And it was just one of those relays where I felt okay about it, but, I kept leaking these out the right. And these 3 really hurt. My vertical got burned here. And some of this vertical, and you will see it on the next couple targets, some of this vertical isn't because of the load. It's because the Mirage is out there bouncing, and you can't shoot 3-inch vertical when you can't aim for 3-inch vertical, or, even 5-inch vertical. I'm probably at any given point holding somewhere in the X ring, but it isn't like a normal situation where you can hold top, middle, or bottom. I'm bracketing with my subtensions and doing my best to keep it aimed in the middle. But, given that this is 5 inches top to bottom, that's a lot of real estate for me to make an error, because if I'm shooting, let's just say the load wants to shoot 5 inches and I hold center X, well, okay, great. The vertical is going to be contained to the top of the X and the bottom of the X. But if I'm up here, because of the Mirage, because I can't see, and, sometimes you dial back a little bit, that helps, but then everything gets smaller. There's trade-offs everywhere. But, if this is now where I break the shot, now this is the top and down here is the bottom. So, there's more room for this kind of mistake to happen. So really what I should have done, you can see shot 1, then 2, started pulling it back in a little bit. And, there's 3, then 4, and it was feeling good, 5. So I was feeling pretty good about my holds as far as being center line here, 6, 7, 8. But you see how all of these are on the right side of the X ring. And once a couple of these piled up, what I really should have done is come out a little bit more, and then this whole group would have centered up over the 10 ring instead of centering up over here just outside the 10 ring. Now, maybe I would have lost shot 5, but I would have gained these 3. So instead of a 197, if I had just centered up a little better, I probably could have saved 1 or 2 points. And I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but at a match like this, 1 or 2 points on every relay adds up to fourth or fifth place. So that's just how it goes, and that's what happened here. Here is the second relay. Now, this one definitely a little better vertical. I think at this point I had thrown on a second sunshade with a second diopter. So I was running double diopters, doubled sunshades on the end of my scope. That did help settle down the mirage a little bit. It's still not a great aiming point. I mean, it's still a bouncing blob, and it's still tough to see any of these lines. But it did help a little bit. The gun was shooting great. You know, this time everything was centered up a lot better, but the wind was picking up just a little bit, and the switches were a little bit tougher. And I dropped 4. You can see, you know, the whole day. Did you notice on the last target, my first shot was out here on the right. You know, same thing. You know, this was my second sighter. I held the same hold, which was right over here, about 2 lines left. And I had missed that the wind had picked up, and boom, it pushed me out. Same thing happened on that previous target. So it was building. I wasn't paying attention, and that's just how it goes. But I only had 2 sighters, so it is what it is. Anyway, you know, a little erratic out here. You can see shot 1. Then we've got shot 2, and then boom, it switched out quick to 3 here. I was able to bring 4 back in, 5, and then boom, back out here to 6. And then the rest of it stayed pretty contained until near the end with 18 here. You can see 17, so 16 was here. And then, you know, this was just a big build. So it went 16, 17, 18, and it was just fast enough that I didn't see it, you know, just not something I saw, and I missed it. It fell back out. Luckily, I was able to pull back 19 and then get 20 in there. So, you know, not great, but it was still keeping me in a solid third place, which this match, I knew things were going to fall apart at the end because of something that's going to happen later that I'll show you. But it doesn't mean I didn't want to try to be competitive. Todd was shooting his normal amazing self. Keith was shooting his normal amazing self. They just weren't giving up anything on the day. So me dropping a few points on each relay, you know, it put me in a square third place there. But I was feeling good about it, and you know, this relay just went quick. There was nothing weird about it, and the points I dropped is what I dropped. So let's see what happens on the next one. Now, this was not a bad relay. So the first 2 relays were both 20-shot strings. The first of the 1,000, so we shot 5 times at 1,000 yards. The first one that you saw was unlimited sighters, 20 for record. That last target was 2 sighters, 20 for record, and then we went into 3 strings of 15. So the first string is unlimited sighters. You can see my sighters up here, and then it's 15 for record, and then the next 2 were 2 sighters, 15 for record that you'll see. So in this particular case, I felt really good about it. Again, just, you know, not easy conditions, not super difficult, but definitely not easy. Things were moving around, and it's how they move around that makes a difference. You know, when you've got movement heading more towards you or away from you, you know, a head or a tail, you definitely have more room to make mistakes than, or I should say you have less room to make mistakes because you're more likely to have a problem than if you have a crossing wind that is switching around. And that's just because of how the trigonometry works. But here's what we're looking at. You know, overall, it was pretty good. So my sighters, you can see here, I finished up sighter 4, sighter 5, went for record, you know, pulled it right in here. And, you know, then we had 2, wait, where'd 2 go? Oh, 2's right here. So then 2, we had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know, I was still a little bit over here, but then I did correct it up a little bit. You know, this 9 hurt. You know, if I had, so see how 8 is out here? So here's what goes through my head. Here's 5. You have 4, then 5, then 6, then 7. They're all right here on the right side. I should have, again, centered up a little bit better and come out. And if I had done that, then 8 would have come in a little more. Now, 8 should have been a warning to me that I just wasn't going hard enough. And you know, I got burned. So right here, this little corner of real estate burned me, because if I had paid attention to 8 and gotten even more aggressive than I did, because I know I came out a little bit more after this, But I really should have said, look, this is building and it's going to burn me. I should have come in a little bit more over here. That would have pulled this 9 back over. And that's, again, one of the reasons why having tight vertical is so important, because if the vertical had been a little better, or if my call had been a little better, it would have squeaked in on this corner. So, either way, it's my fault, but it happens. So you can see 10, I fixed it. 11 starts coming back out, then 12, 13, and the rest of it centered up pretty good. 15 here, I think this was just an error on my part. That's not the load. That's either a bullet that I screwed up pointing or something like that. To have this kind of vertical and then throw this, it was something in the bullet. I doubt it was powder, but it could have just been a weird piece of brass. It could have been a bullet, could have been something, but that hurt because, look at that wind call. It was dead in line with where it should have been. And it's hard. I hate ending on a 9. You can see it here, but hey, that's the way it goes. And, dropping 2, still not bad given the field. At this point, it doesn't really matter, but I was still in 3rd place and feeling pretty good about it. So after this is where things change up for me. So let's take a look. So you're looking at this and you're wondering, what am I looking at now? Well, here's what happened. I had pretty much committed on the day that I was not going to be competing the whole day. So the first 3 targets, I knew I'd be shooting against everybody, but the last couple targets, my buddy and me, who are competing in an invite-only match in June, are going to be shooting what's called pair firing, which means you sit next to somebody, you lay next to somebody, you have a limited amount of time to make a call, you have to wait for the other person to shoot before you can shoot. So it really forces you to make even better wind calls. You have to pace yourself differently. There's very little ability to chase your spotter in any way, or run a string in a row. So we were practicing, and that's always it is one of probably my biggest shortcoming is making individual wind calls after it's broken for a while. And it's one of the hardest things to learn how to do, and I'm always trying to practice. Well, this was a great opportunity since we were both there. So we just committed to shooting the rest of the match this way. And you can see this first one, so here's what happened. At this point, as much as I wanted to tell myself that this was about practice, my head was still in the actual match. And I was conflicted in my head. And that's not a great way to shoot, right? Because here I am trying to practice doing something new, not new, but something I don't do very often. And at the same time, my head was still saying, hey, you need to compete, you need to compete. And that's just a dangerous combination. So you can see the score suffered. Now, my buddy shot about as equally bad, although he shot this number 26 out here, but that's because he hit his trigger on accident. So he really, instead of dropping 10, probably should have dropped 7. I dropped 11. I can tell you that both of us, if we were shooting this relay normally, we probably would have dropped 2 or 3 at the most. So it definitely hurt. It definitely hurt us doing this. But a couple things to note. One, just on a side note, really crazy that our combined shots totaled just under 7 inches of vertical. So really, really tight water line for both of us, which is kind of cool to see. But if you look, all of my shots are in red, and then my scores are over here in yellow. Nothing that unremarkable. This 8, I I couldn't tell you. It just happened because here's 10. Okay. 10 came back in, 11 came back in. There was nothing that crazy about it. I know 8 was out here. 8's the one that's buried right here. And or no, wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, I'm sorry. 8's this circle. I'm sorry. I had the wrong one. So 8 was here. There was nothing that gave me indication that I'd have a problem. And then to throw this 9, but keep in mind, between this shot and this shot, it's probably been 45 to 60 seconds by the time the person you're pair fired with is shooting. You call out the score, they verify it, then you can go and take your shot. So something definitely moved. I totally missed it. And that's that's what happens with pair firing. So you can see we moved all over the board here. You're almost taking a sighter shot every time if the conditions are moving around as much as they were, you just don't know what's happening. And to be honest, I'm just not good enough to take that condition in that mindset and shoot a good score. So I failed myself on a bunch of points here, but it was still a great learning. It definitely showed me some things that I needed to improve on. Now the part that's really a bummer is that for whatever reason, I forgot to save the next two targets that we shot like this. But here's what happened. After this, after dropping the 11 points, I knew I wasn't anywhere in contention for the actual match that we were shooting. And I think that actually helped me because I was able to break free of that and really focus on what I was practicing. And then the next one that we shot, I only dropped five shots on, and then I didn't do too bad. I can't remember because the last one we were screwing around a little bit, but the last one I dropped, I don't know, 6 or 7 or something. So it was definitely an improvement once my head was, separated from what everybody else was doing, and I could just focus on what I needed to accomplish. So good learning. I haven't shot an actual pair fired match for quite a while. So it's good to get my head back in the pair firing game, and I'm going to be practicing nearly every week as I get ready for the beginning of June. The final scores, even with my practicing over here on 4 and 5, with the, I dropped 11 and 5 here, still really happy with it. Tough to complain about, finishing fourth. My buddy Brian beat me out there by 4 points. Todd and Keith, they're just rocks in this thing. They don't give an inch, and you can see here it was pretty tough. They just a couple points separated them throughout the day. So always great to be looking up at people that that help make you compete even harder. So that's how the match went. A lot of good turnout, a lot of good guys. I'm really fortunate that I get to go do this. I know there's some of you still in areas where either weather or components or whatever it is keeping you from getting out and competing, and hopefully that changes for us all soon. But in the meantime, I'm just going to keep plugging at it and keep you guys updated. So thanks for watching. Talk to you guys soon.